So the problem says these are the ages of all the elephants at the zoo in years. Calculate the mean, the variance, and the standard deviation. Okay? Now, since it is all the elephants at the zoo, then this is our total population. Okay? And we represent the mean of the total population with mu, that right there. So to calculate that, you add up all the ages, 7 plus 10 plus 1 plus 14 plus 6 plus 2, and what do you get? 40. And you divide how many there are, 6. And what does that give you for the average age? 6.6 repeating years, right? So that is the average age of your population. Now it wants us to calculate the variance. Now we represent variance as sigma squared, or you could write S squared like that, meaning sigma squared, right? And so here's how you do that. Remember, variance is how far away from the average each individual is. Okay? So here's what we'll do. We'll say 7 minus the average, okay, which is 20 over 3, and we'll square it, right? So I did the first elephant minus the average, and I'm squaring it, right? Hello? Yeah. Okay, and then I'm going to add that to the second elephant minus the average, and then I'm going to square it. And I'll add that to the third elephant minus the average, and then I'll square it, right? And then I'll add that to the fourth elephant minus the average, and I'll square it. And I'll add that to the fifth elephant minus the average, and I'll square it. And I'll add that to the sixth elephant minus the average, and I'll square it. And when I do all that, I have to divide by how many elephants there are. How many are there? 6 of them. Okay? So y'all do this. Calculate this and square it. And calculate this and square it. And calculate this and square it, and so on. And get me a total right here on top. Okay, so I've got... The first one looks like it is 1/9. I don't know why I wrote 1/3. So I've got 1/9 plus, what's 10 minus 23rd squared? What's 10 minus 23rd squared? So I've got 100 over 9 plus 1 minus 23rds squared right here. What is that? 289 over 9 plus 14 minus 23rds squared. 489 over 9 plus 484. So I'll change this right here to 4. 484 over 9 plus 6 minus 23rd squared is what?
4 over 9.
4 over 9 plus 2 minus 23rds squared is 196 over 9. And you're going to divide by how many there are, which is 6. Okay, so now I need y'all to add up all of these fractions right here. Remember, when you put it in the calculator, you need to put each fraction in parentheses. Okay, now if I were you, I would pause the video and I would try to, I would calculate each of these myself, and then I would add all these up myself just to make sure that I'm doing it correct in the calculator. Okay, so I added all those up, and I got 119.3333, which is 358 over 3, and I'm dividing the whole thing by 6. Now, the reason why I'm not putting a decimal right here is because I don't want to round until the very last step, because each step, if I round, then I'm getting further and further from the real solution. So now, pause the video and type in your calculator 358 divided by 3 and put that in parentheses and then divide by 6, and you should get 19.88888, which is the same thing as 179 over 9, or you could say 19.888 repeating. Okay? Now, that number, 19.8, represents our what? Our variance. Say variance. So our variance, sigma squared, is 19.8 repeating. Now, if you want the standard deviation, what do you do to the variance? So I don't divide it, I square root it. So I'm going to say my standard deviation, okay, my standard deviation, okay, or normally we represent that with the symbol sigma, is the square root of 19.8 repeating. Now the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to use the fraction, the square root of 179 over 9. So let's put that in, the square root of 179 over 9. And you get the standard deviation sigma is 4. Let's say 6. I got in my calculator 4.459. I'm going to use this 9 to round the 5 to a 6. So I got 4.46. Now in Con, I worked it this morning. If you round it, they'll take it. So let's review what we've got here, okay? Here's our problem. These are the ages of the elephants at the zoo. Now here are your ages of the elephants. We got that we had an average of 6.6 years in age, okay? Now that gave us a variance of 19.8 repeating, which gave us a standard deviation of 4.46. So what they're saying is each elephant is on average about 4.46 years from the mean. Okay, now this elephant's less than a year from the mean, right? But this elephant's like 3 years from the mean. This one's like 5.5 years from the mean, right? This one is like 8 years from the mean. On average, our elephants are how far from the mean? Almost 4.5 years from the mean, right? That's what your standard deviation tells you. How far is each individual on average from the mean?